Hello and welcome to the Unity Podcast, live, baby, live.
Woo!
As always, my name is Brandon.
And I am Whitney. Hello.
Hello, I apologize in advance for my awful sounding voice, which, some people may think is an improvement, but we'll go from there.
It's deep AF. It's wonderful.
It's that lovely pollen season in Iowa, let me tell you. Tonight, Whitney, we're heading back to the Sooner State of Oklahoma to meet another amazing author.
I love it. I'm so excited. We have Lara Bernhardt on the show tonight. She is a Pushcart-nominated writer, and I will tell you the Pushcart Awards are a big deal. She is an editor and an audiobook narrator. She is editor-in-chief of Balkan Press and also publishes a literary magazine called Conclave. Twice a finalist for the Oklahoma Book Award for Best Fiction. She writes supernatural suspense and women's fiction. She is best known for her series, The Wantland Files, and has recently released the fourth book in that series called Halloween in Hannibal. Ooh, I love it.
Whitney, have you ever been to Hannibal?
I have not, but I've heard of it because I remember, of course, Mark Twain books on occasion. Yeah. So I've heard of it.
That town is so much fun.
Oh, cool.
It's just dripping in history for, you think of all the history stuff y'all have out there in Virginia. We have Hannibal in the Midwest, and I absolutely love that town, and I'm so excited to sink my teeth into her book. So let's talk a little bit about it. So Kimberly Wantland and her paranormal investigation team are traveling to Hannibal, Missouri for their Halloween episode to investigate the old Catholic church. So owner Jillian Olson is sure she knows who haunts the building and why he's antagonizing her. But Kimberly hears whispers of far more than the reported ghostly phenomenon. A dark figure implores her to help, but help who? An empty grave and a disturbing experience inside a cave further confound the case. And as she struggles to piece together the mystery, Kimberly's psychic abilities fail her. So her psychic senses are out of control. Kimberly sees only two possible causes: Sterling's presence or a dangerous force unlike any she's faced before. Kimberly fears this investigation may just be all trick and no treat.
Oh, that sounds terrifying.
It sounds amazing.
It sounds so much fun. And I actually just ordered the first two books in the series. They're coming to me tomorrow. So nice. I'm excited. And honestly, folks, if that doesn't get you completely excited to talk to Lara, then I think we need to throw out a few haunted locations from her area. So one of them, this is so cool. Our first haunted location is called Gabriella's Italian Grill, formerly the County Line Barbecue Restaurant. Ooh, I like barbecue, and I also like Italian, so this is great.
It's a winner either way. And it's got ghosts.
And it's got a great history too. Gabriella's is housed in a building that has been a Prohibition-era dance hall, a gambling establishment, and a bordello. Oh my God, that's like the holy trinity of 20th century haunted locations right there.
Paranormal gumbo.
Amen. And legend has it that the joint was a favorite hangout of famed gangster Pretty Boy Floyd. Oh, nice. Now, a ghost that is known to reside here is Russell, who was a playboy murdered by a jealous husband near the fireplace. Witnesses have described voices, cups that fly off of the draining racks, and wine glasses rattling for no apparent reason. That's fun. That sounds fun. That sounds like a really fun little haunted restaurant typical. I would visit that.
It's a dinner and a show.
Literally.
All right. Well, our next place has some very interesting haunts, to say the least.
Okay.
So it's the Skirvin Hilton in Oklahoma City. So the rumor has it that a former maid killed herself and her illegitimate daughter by jumping out of a window here. So it is these deaths that folks say spurred the hauntings. So female guests have reported hearing infant cries during the night, and male guests have been propositioned by a female voice or even sexually assaulted and have seen the apparition of a naked woman while they are in the shower.
Oh my God!
Right? That is insane.
That is wild.
Well, to top it off, a former worker also reported that on the 6th floor, room 629, you can hear and see shadows fighting each other, and you feel the sensation of being tripped if you walk towards the windows.
That's very strange. That's some major physical hauntings there. Oh, that's terrifying. Well,
yeah, it's unreal.
Yeah. Well, our last place to discuss is Shawnee's Ritz Theater, and Brandon, of course, knows my love for haunted theaters. It was built in 1897 as a dry goods store, and then it was turned into a boarding house. The Ritz Theater part was born in 1926, and it might be haunted by a 1900s projectionist named Leo Montgomery, who died of a heart attack during a movie showing. Flickering lights and unexplained voices have been noticed, perhaps caused by Mr. Montgomery, or as some believe, by the lingering spirits of boarding house residents. And another ghost said to reside here is called Amelia. The legend has it is that she died of pneumonia when the building was a boarding house. Wow. Okay, that sounds like a lot of fun too.
It sounds awesome.
All right. I've got, you know what, ever since I've been on this show, I now have so many places that I want to go, all in the Midwest. And I'm sure, Brandon, you want to come out and visit me here in Virginia eventually.
Always.
Yes. But you know what? Enough about the locations. Let's bring Lara on and dig into her amazing paranormal series, The Watland Files. Ladies and gentlemen, Lara Bernhardt, how are you doing tonight?
Hi, I'm good, and I'm super excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. I'm really excited. I'm so happy that we're now branching out and talking to more writers on the show.
Me too. But I'm really excited to hear the locations. I've actually stayed at the Skirvin a number of times.
Oh, no kidding.
So what has happened to you there?
Anything?
That's one of the, I keep hearing so many things, and I hear other people have experiences there, but I personally didn't. I actually thought about writing a book set in the Skirvin, and then I had no experiences there.
Oh, no.
Well, your friend Betsy.
I know. Yes, Betsy and I have been there together. Yes.
Yeah, she said that the water was turning on and off when the sinks were sealed off.
Oh,
weird.
The ghost went to her.
Yeah.
I'm jealous.
Everybody chases Betsy.
Yeah, because she's always chasing Bigfoot.
True
among other
story.
things. And
Absolutely.
Betsy, we love you. And also, hello to all the chat. I see that we've got some pretty energetic people in the chat already. That's awesome. Oh, Lara, this is great. So I guess we'll just go ahead and just fling ourselves right into it. So
Sounds good.
What got you into the paranormal?
Well, kind of like my protagonist in my book series, I've been aware of, I've had experiences that I couldn't explain for a very long time. And I think when I became most aware of it, we were staying we had a rental house in Texas. So I've lived in Oklahoma all my life, but for 2 years, and a lot happened there. Now, I personally think that there was just a lot of activity in that house, but I was a teen there, so I was maturing a little bit, and I think that those things tend to manifest a little bit more. So I had a number of experiences there that really stuck with me and continue to. My kids are convinced that I just attract them, even when they're around me. Sometimes some of my kids will experience things that they don't experience anywhere else.
Interesting.
Each one of my books, I incorporate something that has happened to me in real life.
Oh, wow. Oh, I can't wait to, as I mentioned earlier, I actually have your first 2 books coming to me right now.
I hope you love them.
Oh, I'm going to have a blast with them. I know that.
Good.
So, we
Next
actually
book will be out soon too. So book 5 is nearing the end of production, and we'll start gearing it up for release.
So I'm actually looking in the chat. First off, hey, Eric Harrison, we're happy to have you. And Troy. Also, Betsy has confirmed Gabriella's restaurant is terrific. So she confirmed that.
Okay, fantastic. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. We have a question in the chat from Jenny LeBranch. She's asking, what comes first for you, the plot or the characters?
Ooh. That depends on the book, but for this series, I did have the characters in mind first. That's a great question.
Yeah, that segues very nicely
Those
into
two things,
tell us
yeah.
more about the Wantland Files.
Okay, sure. Yes, so those two things come together. That's a great question, Jenny. Those two things work together so integrally in any story. But in this particular case, I had the characters in mind first. I wanted to use that idea of spirits being around us and things that we can't necessarily explain being around us all the time. And I had some ideas, some things from my own life that I wanted to bring in. And I had an idea for a collection of ghost stories, like short stories, that each of these would take up like a chapter in a book. And then I found out that's not really the best approach, and wanted to develop each of those into a story. And what would be a better through line character for something like that would be a psychic, of course. And then I started thinking, I was a huge fan. I still am a huge fan. I just don't watch it as consistently of ghost hunters at the time. I was watching it a lot. And I thought, well, if I had someone who was truly psychic, but was using her psychic abilities to go from location to location and help out people who weren't getting help anywhere else, that could be a great reason for her to be moving from place to place and exploring these different hauntings and getting to experience things with her. So from there, it just kind of grew and grew. And I come from a family of Sterlings. Sterling is the other main character in this book, and he is very skeptical, whereas she is the believer and the sensitive soul. He is very skeptical, and he has like an explanation for everything grounded in science. And so I kind of have both of these voices because I grew up with that. I have both of these voices in me all the time. So I split them up into 2 characters so that they bring some tension and conflict to it. And I think make the book so that anyone can enjoy them, really.
Sounds like it. Hey, Brandon, that sounds like you and me.
Yeah, it kind of does. It kind of does.
Yeah.
X-Files, the same thing. You've got the believer and the skeptic. Same
and I'm
setup.
the redhead too. I'm red-haired like Dana Scully.
Yes.
I don't have the looks of Mulder though.
No, you don't.
Maybe if I shave this off a little bit.
No, don't get rid of the beard. Ladies and gentlemen, if you my dear friends, if you like Brandon's beard, drop a comment and we'll go from there. He's gonna kill me later. Jenny also asks, what is the hardest part of the writing process for you?
Finding the time to write is really tough for me.
Preach, girl.
I do anyway. I make the time. And then right now I have a women's fiction so I'll be releasing 2 books this fall. And I am so deep in final proofreading and editing on that. The next women's fiction will be out next. Before the next Wantland Files will be. And I'm just so sick of reading it. So endless edits are another thing that I take a break, I come back to it and I think this is good and I get happy and I like it. And then you read and you read and you read and you catch more typos and start to think maybe I hate it after all. But no, it's good. I'm really excited for this one to be out in the world.
Well, that's a perfect segue because you do have, of course, with women's fiction, you have the Shadow of the Taj. So
Yes.
can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, sure. Shadow of the Taj is about a woman who goes to India with her husband. He's taking sabbatical. And while she's there, she encounters a little girl who asks for her help. And she finds out that she's a brothel baby. And this dredges up some bad memories for her. And she becomes convinced that it's up to her to save this little girl. And she's going to do anything she can to save her from this horror that waits for her.
Wow.
If not for her, she's going to be left to a pretty dismal future. And the book follows her as she tries to rescue her. And of course, it goes into her past. It deals with a lot of women's issues. It's very real. It's grounded in reality, even though it's
well, and I give you a lot of kudos on that too, because
Yeah.
that's definitely a hot topic right now.
And the next one that's coming out turns out to be surprisingly, unfortunately, very topical as well. You can't plan these things. It's been years in process, but it's another one that deals with women's issues. It touches on some things that are becoming very topical at the moment as well. There's a strong connection, I think. It breaks the rules to write in two separate genres. I guess, I'm just a total renegade. I don't listen to advice. But I also think that there's a big connection between women and women's issues and the supernatural. I'm working on a master's degree right now, and in the last class I was in, I wrote a rather lengthy final paper on the connection between women and the supernatural in the past. This is something that strong, independent, unattached women, maybe those who chose to try to practice holistic medicine or just didn't have a man in their life for one reason or another, were very often branded witches and accused of things that they couldn't possibly have been doing. And yet this kind of attitude really does still follow us today. You can draw a line from that belief. We don't necessarily call them witches anymore. We've got a new name, but it's the same idea that a strong, powerful woman is not necessarily admired or appreciated. It goes back many centuries.
Wow. Oh, that's an incredible. What class was that, if I may ask? Because that sounds
Interestingly
cool.
enough, it was a study of British literature.
Oh,
and
okay.
We were looking at Shakespeare, and I pulled some of Shakespeare's characters, but then I also dug into the history of the time. King James wrote
demonology.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And this was very well known at the time. Some of the spells that the three weird sisters use in Macbeth were actually pulled from
demonology.
Yes, absolutely, where we get a lot of our cultural views of witches and how we think of them.
Yeah, James VI of Scotland / James I of England.
Yep.
He was a fascinating figure.
Yes, he really was. Yes,
and he's a really interesting figure, not just when it comes to his scholarly aptitude, because he was a pretty bookish kind of guy. He was very well studied, very well versed in Latin. He asked questions. He met people, the most learned scholars of the day, but also you have to really reflect on how much of his mindset regarding women really stemmed from. I mean, he never knew his mom because she was executed by Queen Elizabeth I, and Mary Queen of Scots was executed. That was his mother. And then how he viewed his wife and how he viewed women in general, and the kind of interactions he also had in court with other men. There's a lot to speculate.
It was an interesting time because they had Elizabeth I, who was behaving in exactly the way we just described. She was
Yeah.
independent. She refused to take a husband. She wouldn't give up any of her power. And I think I was arguing in the paper that that possibly could have influenced Shakespeare. So they were writing these plays kind of to perform for her, to honor her. And I think some of his strong female characters came from trying to honor her. Now, whether or not that was making society think as a whole, here's a woman who is actually functioning just as well given an opportunity as any man has. And yet society continued to believe that women really just needed to get married and have children and stay in the household.
And there was so much, I mean, it really was a cradle of great. Funny enough, I'm actually writing a book set in that time period too.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I love it.
Although
I love it already.
it's more of a feeling. I'm not going to get precious on historical details
Okay.
because honestly, I just don't have the time.
Right.
And
let's stay in touch about this. This sounds interesting.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, my good friends, Parafam, we are definitely making connections here. And I definitely love, can you expand a little bit more on the roles you explored with women and the supernatural beyond viewing them as witches or even mediums? Because we actually have had conversations about this in the past.
I think that women are just more, I think they tend to be, well, okay, I'm talking about me. You shouldn't really generalize.
Of course.
I personally think I'm very empathic. I think I'm very affected by what's going on around me and more in tune with emotions. Women are more known, or at least we're believed to be more in tune with our emotions. I know we say witchcraft and witches, but there's a population that actually behaves. People might want to call them witches, but they don't actually behave the way we think that they do. These are people who are in touch with nature,
Yes.
in touch with natural remedies, in touch with their emotions. They're seeking guidance from you could argue spirits around them. I just don't think that we know everything there is to know. And so kind of like Mulder, I'll say I want to believe. I'm open to the idea that there's way more to this universe than what we understand. And this is something that Kimberly says to Sterling in the books.
Oh, yeah.
There's just so much out there we don't know. So I am open to it. And I just the other night was down in the kitchen after everyone else had gone to bed, and I felt a hand on my back telling you there are just things that I think we don't completely understand. I believed it enough that I whirled around to see who had snuck up behind me. Like, I really thought there was somebody with me. So I come at it from more of a spiritual connecting to, which is perhaps still something along the lines of a medium. You could argue that maybe Kimberly is written that way, but I expanded it to more than that. She's just reaching out to other things in the universe. And I think that that's a way, but again, I think that comes from that more homeopathic idea. People want to separate that from science rather than including it.
Very cool. Well, one thing I was curious about is, you're going through your different books that you have in the Watland Files. It's so many like great places to talk about. I mean, you have the Crescent Hotel.
Yes.
Guthrie, Oklahoma. Obviously, Hannibal, Missouri.
There.
Oh, you
Oh,
have?
you have?
Mhm.
Oh, do tell.
So I'd been on a ghost tour, and I kind of made them give me the monitor, the EMF monitor. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
And it was going off for me. And I
Okay.
was not near anything. They kept saying, well, maybe you're just standing by an electric line. Maybe you're this, maybe you're that. But it was going off places that it really shouldn't have been. So I got to hear all of the lore. We heard the stories. That night at about 3 a.m., I woke up. There'd been a wedding. My first thought was that the people were partying way too hard and way too late. And then I realized I was hearing what sounded like wheels rolling down the hallway. And we were on the floor where the nurse, Norman Baker's nurse, has been seen, manifestation of her rolling a gurney down the hallway. She would take them from the psych ward where they had people screaming in agony as they died. When they passed away, she would roll them down that hallway to the elevator and down to the morgue. And
Yikes.
I have a feeling, so by the time I got up there was nothing in the hallway, but I heard what I heard, and I think that I very possibly heard that.
I give you a lot of credit for actually going out into the hallway at 3:00 in the morning in a hotel.
But it was empty. It was.
I know, but still, I personally would be like,
maybe not.
No, I might be like, how much do I like my bed? But
yes.
Oh man, I actually would like to learn more about the Crescent Hotel, because you hear about it all the time, but it's a really cool historical location, and
absolutely
lots of horrible things happen there to these poor people.
And what Betsy was describing with the water turning off and on, there's another room there that's supposed to be haunted by Jack, who fell and died while the building was under construction. And he goes after female guests, and he's been known to turn on taps in the bathroom. So, and it's just a great place. It's just
that's at the Skirvin Hilton.
No, this is at the Crescent.
Oh, it was at the Crescent. Okay.
Mm-hmm. She had a similar experience at the Skirvin, but this is lore surrounding the Crescent.
Okay. Hey, sounds.
I'm sorry. I'm against any spirit that wants to communicate or interact in a bathroom. No, thank you. That's private time. Private time.
Have you guys? But have you all noticed that when it comes to some hauntings, there's a lot of reports about the bathrooms, especially the women's restrooms.
Yes.
Have you all noticed that?
I hadn't thought about that, but you are correct.
Ew. That makes me feel all ooky.
That is kind of creepy.
It's the water flowing.
Ah. Possibly. Well, why aren't they going into the men's restroom?
Because we stink.
Because we.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Fair point. All right. So you had an experience at the Crescent, and what are some other places you've had experiences at? What would be your top favorite haunted locations?
Honestly, the homes I live in are where I have the most experiences. That was probably my favorite experience outside. And then I had.
Hold on. Don't tread over that thought.
Okay.
Your favorite place, haunted places, are the homes like plural that you've lived in?
This is why some of my kids think that I have something that follows me, and I don't know how I feel about that, because it seems to happen consistently wherever I go. I'll move. Is each place haunted, whatever you want to call it? Is there still someone living here that lived here before? I don't know how to explain that. I just know that I've had. So that's where I have the most. And so I think at the Crescent is probably hearing those gurneys. That really, the gurney wheels really stuck with me. That's probably the biggest thing I've had outside my house. But I go on ghost tours wherever, and I will usually, if somebody will let me have the EMF, I will use it, or I'll crack out an app and try to use it myself if they won't give it to me. I snap pictures. My next book is set in New Orleans.
Oh yeah.
And I did go on a ghost tour there, and I will say I captured a photograph that absolutely, I'm convinced, I've shown it to other people, and other people see the silhouette in the background. I think I captured the spirit that our ghost guide was telling us about. There was nothing there that should have been throwing any kind of shadow or reflection. There was nothing there that should have been causing it. And it's not in the picture before, and it's not in the picture after, but smack in the middle. there it is. I took a whole bunch in a row because the table, it's in a restaurant. That table there is set up specifically to placate the spirit who haunts that restaurant. And I got a picture of something there.
Well, and New Orleans is such a rich town. I mean, not even just culturally. I mean, you're looking at the different haunted locations from just the crazy history that it's had.
And it's a melting
slavery,
pot.
between the Civil War, between hazard or hurricanes, and then you add like, you know, the different types of religious cultures like voodoo and hoodoo and all the Haitian stuff. And I mean, there's all just so much there.
It has a great vibe.
I love it. I love it. So kind of based on that, so you said it's set in New Orleans. Are there any other little sneaks you can tell us about the next book?
It's gonna be the Christmas story. So we just had Halloween and Hannibal. This is gonna be a Christmas story, and it's gonna be kind of an updated, modernized retelling of a very famous Christmas story.
Oh ho ho!
But at the same time, there's a subplot as well with Kimberly. Like we were just talking about, she just had trouble when she was in Hannibal. She didn't know what was going on, and we're going to find out a lot. So this is a big turning point for her.
So do you visit the locations that you have in your books then?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Yep. And so, yep. So the next one, and I've been to Albuquerque a number of times. That's where the final will be set. The finale to the series will be not the next book, but the next, the 7th book. So now I need to decide where that 6th one's go. And I've started sketching out the story of it, but I'm not sure yet where I'm going to place it.
I'll help you with
it. I like it.
Virginia's a very nice place.
I wasn't going to say anything. I really wasn't. Although Brandon does have a point. We've got some pretty dicey stuff here, but it depends on what the ultimate thread you have going through your stories actually is. So,
true.
Yeah.
I'll start doing some research, though. That's a good idea.
I will actually plug a little service that I provide for people for free. I actually give tarot card readings to characters of books.
Okay. Well, she has one in New Orleans because I had one in New Orleans and it was amazing. It was amazing.
Yeah.
I had heard on the ghost tour that I went on, we spoke to the guide. And I knew I wanted to try this. And she warned us away. She said, don't go to any of these places. Here's where you want to go for an authentic reading. And she said, anybody that stops you or anybody try to, you don't tell them anything, right? Because it could lead the reading someplace.
That is true.
When I sat down, I went to the place that she said was the real deal. And when I sat down, the guy asked me if there was anything I wanted to say or anything I specifically wanted him to look at. And I said, nope, I just want to start. I told him nothing. And I could not believe how very specific he was able to get. I actually did tear up at one point. It was pretty moving. And I didn't expect that. I think I probably went in a little more like Sterling, and oh my goodness, no more.
See, I'm the same way you are. I've never had a reading. I have a hard time releasing that control of thinking that they're not just playing with me and just trying to feed off me to get me to give them answers. So
I'm convinced that I gave him nothing. I'm convinced I gave him nothing. And of course we just spread the cards and I started drawing as he told me to, and he set them up, and things that he was telling me, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. It was a turning point for me. I'm not you know what? There are people who need to light a candle and pray. There are people who need to go to church to feel good. People find things to keep them going. And I have actually looked back on that, on times that I'm starting to let things creep up and I'm not feeling so good. And I remind myself, nope, it's going to be okay. I know everything's going to be okay.
So we had a couple listeners give you a couple other options too for your book. So Betsy says Durango has a lovely haunted hotel.
Which one? I've been to Durango.
Yeah, let us know, Betsy.
And then Troy, he said, have you ever been to the Mason House Inn in Bettonsport, Iowa?
I have not been to Iowa.
We got
some
a
stuff.
lot of good information here.
Yeah,
we got some stuff there.
We also had
to know if it's evil. So this is interesting. When I lived in Tulsa, there was something in that house that really worried me. Like, it scared me. Like, I brought holy water home and was trying to contain it. That one scared me. That one, I woke up several times in the night and there was a figure in my door. I'm just gonna tell you, this is the scariest story I have for anybody.
Okay, yeah, let's hear it. We want to hear it.
It stood in the door and I would look and blink because you hear over and over, you're just still dreaming. You haven't really woken up yet. And I would try and still it was there. Not till I turned the light on and sat up and moved around. And then of course it was hard to go back to sleep because I saw this figure. And at one point it would shift and stand next to my bed. I'd wake up and there would be I'm reaching for the phone. I started sleeping with the phone by my bed in case I had to call 911 because it felt like there was a man in my house. It was that believable. So my youngest son was still a toddler at that point and would get up in the night sometimes to use the bathroom. Well, and I had some friends who had come over thinking that we were going to do, what was that old show where they would, you could send in a video and they might build you a new house or something. I can't remember what it was called, but some friends came over and one of them had a camera. And the next day when we listened to the recording, when she was standing in front of the garage door, we heard a voice. We heard a man's voice and there was no man in the house when we were recording. And it was not pleasant. It sounded very negative and harsh and hostile, really. Never could make out the words, but it sounded like it was standing like just over her shoulder, right? Just right there.
Oh, wow.
One morning I was driving the kids to daycare to drop them off in the morning before I could go to work. And my littlest, who couldn't have been more than 6 at the time, said he'd gotten up in the night to go to the bath. Well, the first thing he said was, I don't like that man in our house.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I asked what man he was talking about because there was no man in our house. And he said, I got up last night to use the bathroom. And at the end of the hallway, which is in front of he pointed it out to me when we got back home, in front of the garage, he said there was a man standing there. And from that night on, he would call me to take him to the bathroom. He was scared to get up on his own for fear he would see that man again. He was 6. He was not inventing that. So it wasn't even just me. You try to write this stuff off, but he had no reason to make that up. There was nothing I wasn't telling anyone. I wasn't telling anyone what I thought I saw because I figured I'd be called crazy, right? I wasn't going to tell anyone that I thought I saw a man standing over my bed. So I hadn't shared it with anyone. He didn't have anything to base it on. And he was truly scared. I think that house had something not good in it. Other than that, I haven't been bothered by them. I actually used a pendulum and invited anyone that was here to talk to me. And when someone responded, I asked if he was, if he meant any ill will or any harm to anyone in the house, and it said no. So I said, all right, then you're welcome. As long as you're not going to hurt anyone, you're welcome.
Wow.
That's at your current house now that you did your pendulum?
What's that?
You said that was at your current house that you did your pendulum, or is that at the other one?
That's here, not at the other one. I started looking into things more recently. maybe looking for some answers, some support, something. It's been a while. This has been ongoing and it doesn't go away. So I decided to embrace the idea more instead of try to push it away.
That makes sense. And also, I think we can all speak for, we're parents, both me and Brandon are parents. And I know for a fact, if anything ever bothered my son,
yes,
and he's 12, he's almost 12, but things frighten him. So if I ever caught wind that something would bother him, then I definitely would want to do something about that immediately. So
we've done clearings in our kids' room before because we've had stuff that's managed to find its way in there.
See, I don't take
my done that there. Yep.
Yeah. See, the problem with me is that when things come home with me, they mostly just stick to me. They don't bother anybody else in the house.
This wasn't a thing that
to me. Yes.
This wasn't a tag along. This was a showed up on its own.
Okay.
Just passing through, sucking some energy.
Yeah, we get that too. It's called living near a battlefield.
Okay.
I do not. So it's a little awkward for here. So I mean, unless it's like Children of the Corn or something like that. But Betsy got back to you here. She said the Straighter in Durango.
Okay.
She also said the Sealback in Louisville and the Stanley and Estes Park are the 3 most haunted hotels she's been to.
Okay.
And she said she couldn't even go into the Stanley. She got there and she couldn't get out of the car.
Oh, wow.
See, I don't know if I could go to the Stanley because that's pretty high. I mean, I don't know if I could handle the altitude.
I need to look at the Straighter. I've probably walked right by it and not even realized.
Don't laugh at me, Brandon. I'm talking from experience. I lived in Ecuador for like 3 months, and I thought the altitude was going to kill me.
All right, so Jenny has another question. She says, have you ever wondered if the ghosts that are somehow not able to pass on are attracted to empaths like you, so they don't have to feel so alone?
Well, I incorporate that in the book. That's an idea I explore in the book series, because I do think definitely when I'm in Kimberly's skin, that's exactly how I'm thinking. And in New Orleans, I have some of the spirits are noticing that she sees them and are drawn to her because she can. It's because unusual. They've got someone who doesn't just look right through them or past them, and someone who is able to communicate with them. But I don't know. I think sometimes I do wonder about that. And again, it's ideas I get to explore in the books, which I love.
Yeah.
I think sometimes they don't even know what's happened. Can you imagine if you were just suddenly not able to interact with anyone anymore and no one that you knew was there anymore and they were total strangers and they didn't answer you and you were just kind of there? I would think that would be terrifying and awful. And then you don't know what to do. You're stuck and you don't know how to move on.
Well, and some of the people are saying now that they kind of are almost thinking that some of these spirits don't even know they've passed.
Exactly.
They're still just
in the very first
doing
book
their
that
thing.
I have is someone who doesn't know. They don't know, and they've kind of, that spirit has kind of gotten corrupted and isn't who she used to be anymore.
That's sad. And but of course we always have to go back to that token question, which my dear friend Steve Dills will talk about at length for hours at a time. I love you, Steve. What is a ghost?
Whitney, we don't have to go that deep with Laura.
No, we don't have to go that deep either. I'm just saying we gotta bring up that.
How many religions believe in a soul, right?
Quite a few, probably all of them.
And in the books, because Kimberly and Sterling sometimes get into these conversations, he's deeply religious, she's spiritual. That doesn't, I feel like somewhere in there is the truth, right?
Yeah.
She doesn't necessarily prescribe to a formal religion, but she's absolutely, and she's trying to say, but you believe in a soul that goes to heaven, don't you? And he says, yes, I do. She's saying, okay. And how do you think that happens? Because he says the spirits can't be around us. That's not how it works. When we die, our soul, he says soul, he doesn't say spirit. But she's telling him, but a spirit is just a soul that didn't make it. That mechanism isn't perfect. Sometimes that transition gets disrupted and they don't make it where they're supposed to go, and they get lost and they get stuck here. And that's where her concern lies, that people are lost here. If they don't want to be here and they're lost and they're confused. And she's saying, look, I have the ability to actually connect with them and help them move on. And how do you know God didn't give me that? This God that you believe in, how do you know I'm not here to fix that? So it.
Oh, I bet that I would love to. I mean, I can't wait to really start getting into this series and actually be a fly on the wall, because that should be fun.
These books have Whitney written all over them.
There's a lot of books.
So.
There's a lot of books that have Whitney written all over them. But then you connect and you make friends.
My dog is going to start voicing his opinion.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
I will press for an assist. He says, here we go. He's gonna
Hi, puppy.
I know. That's all right.
It's like he said, buy the book.
Yeah, I think that's what.
And he's telling you he's my edit hound. He sits by me while I am writing them and while I'm editing them. So his nickname is Edit Hound. So.
Oh, nice.
So we all have an inner critic, but she apparently has an outer critic.
My dog.
Well, she has a dog that edits, and she has a ghost that proofreads. I mean, she's
that reminds me of like a Dilbert comic strip. Do you remember? You know Dilbert, right?
Yeah.
It reminds me of that. Like, it's Dogbert.
Yes.
Dogbert, tech support. How may I abuse you?
Oh my gosh.
Hey, at least I'm not talking about another thing that I geek out over. So be happy about that, Brandon. And speaking of buy the book, where are some other places where our listeners can actually buy your books?
They're everywhere. You can, of course, you can get anything and everything at Amazon, but they are also at Barnes and Noble. They're on Apple Books. What do we call that? The Apple version of that. They're everywhere. Roku. Roku. Kobo. Yeah, Rakuten. That's something at Kobo. They're everywhere.
Is there a particular independent bookstore that you also would like to shout out for anybody that might be?
They've definitely carried them in the past at Full Circle and at Best of Books in Edmond. I don't know if they still have them or not. I'd have to reach out and ask them.
And I think we've heard of Full Circle. I think Betsy told us about Full Circle.
It's a good one. It's a good one. They've had them before, but I don't know if they currently have them in stock. When they were first coming out, they were keeping them.
Book sales are crazy things.
The first one was one of my Oklahoma Book for Best Fiction Award finalists. And so everybody had them, like our libraries have them. Everybody picked it up when it was a finalist. But then I think it's kind of petered off a little bit.
Yeah. Although I did see your Amazon stats. So I was like, go, Lara!
Yes. Last weekend was amazing. That was awesome.
Oh, man.
It is.
Yes, any bookstore can order them. That's right, Betsy.
And audiobooks. And you're an audiobook narrator. Are you do you narrate your own books?
I had to give that up. So I have been clutching those dearly, completely expecting to. And in fact, at one point I'd started and I got about a quarter of the way through Wantland Files. And then I just have so much going on. And I guess it was last summer, as I was gearing up for the fourth one, I thought, why am I doing this? At that point, it was such a huge task. I reached out and I connected with, she just fell in my lap. I was actually about to offer it to someone else, and they got kind of wishy-washy on it. And all of a sudden, here was Heidi. And she was amazing. And I really enjoy her. And I don't regret doing that because there are some times where the way she reads them, I just think, oh, I want to read it that way, and I like it. So she's really good, and she's totally professional and great to work with. So no regrets.
Yay!
I give those people a lot of credit. There's no way
I
I
do
can
too.
do the different
Someday
voices
I hope
for
you
each
get
character.
to that. And there it goes again.
I know. Oh, is that Edit Hound?
There he goes again. That's Edit Hound.
Oh, Edit Hound. What do you want us to say? What would you like us to talk about, Edit Hound? Huh? Oh, and there's Josie.
He wants his dental bone because it's his normal bedtime.
That's a baby.
An old man.
Oh, how old is he?
Well, let me think. He must be about 9. My real old one is 17. She doesn't make any noise. She just lays there and sleeps. She's my little old lady.
Yeah.
They're both getting up there, but her especially.
Well, do you have any public events that are coming up?
I do. Coming up, let me think. I will be at our library's Lit Fest on August 20th. I'll have WriterCon that I'll be at over Labor Day weekend.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be speaking at a college in October. I have to look at my calendar. Now that COVID's over, we're kind of picking these things back up. So
yeah, and now we don't know how to do it now.
Right, exactly.
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, traveling's amazing now. It's like I miss traveling.
Yes, but I also forgot kind of how much it can take out of you. But no, I'm glad. I'm really, really glad. I don't even remember how many things got canceled on me in 2020. I'm super glad that those are starting to pick back up.
Absolutely. Oh, wonderful. And we'll make sure that we post any information in the show notes, good friends, so you can find Lara anytime. And best way to contact you?
You can email me, you can Facebook message me, but say something about I heard you on Paraunity, just because the Facebook messages can get kind of skeezy sometimes, and noise world dubious of those. I'm on Instagram, whatever, but yeah, we can put my email. I don't mind. It's everywhere.
Okay. Well, we'll make sure we post, and also we'll post your website in the show notes.
Okay,
so all good. Oh boy, I'm a happy person right now. Are you? Are you happy, Brandon?
So fun.
I'll be happy when my voice comes back.
Dude, I keep telling you. You sound good. You're okay. It doesn't hurt you, does it?
Have some throat coat.
Yeah, right.
I'm taking.
There's a tea you can drink called throat coat that's very soothing and helps bring your voice back. It's an old actor's trick. We used it when I was on stage.
God, you just did a little bit of everything, didn't you?
Yeah, a little bit of everything. I can't decide what I want to be when I grow up.
Yeah.
Well, when you grow up, you let me know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Well, Laura, I really appreciate you coming on the show tonight.
Yes.
Oh, my pleasure. Really. Thank you for having me. Anytime.
Yes. And all of our listeners, whether you're on video or on audio, make sure you go out and you check out these books. Watland Files, you are not going to want to miss them. I mean, they literally have a little bit of everything in there. If you go onto her website, she has little previews about each of them, and you can read through it. And it's like little blurbs of just like beautifulfulness that just you make you want to go read the book immediately.
Yay! Hearts.
Yes, very much so. Go out and take a chance and read them books.
I know, me too. Oh man, yeah. I'm and like I said, guys, I've got my copies coming tomorrow, so I am excited. I can't read online anymore because every time I do, my eyes start to hurt. So I'm actually getting books.
Back to books. Okay, well, you'll have to send me your mailing address so that I can send you a copy of the new one when it's coming out.
Oh, totally. We're up for that.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yes.
I'll add them to my collection of Betsy books on my bookshelf.
Betsy.
You guys can challenge each other to have the priority seating.
Oh, God. It's not a fight. It's not a competition.
It's not a competition, but B does come before K, and I was a librarian at one point, so.
Yes. Ooh, take that.
and on that note.
And on that lovely note, thank you again, Lara. This is so great.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks again to Lara Bernhardt for being our guest tonight, and thanks to all of you for tuning in.
If you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, please remember to take a second to rate us 5 stars or leave us a review. It helps us to get the word out about the show, and we want to hear your feedback to help make the show better.
That's right, Whitney. And if you're an Android listener, you can follow us on Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, or Google Podcasts, or simply say, Alexa, play that Para-Unity podcast so you never miss an episode.
That part
Remember,
still tickles me.
I know you like that part. I was scared my voice was going to pop as I did it. But remember, if you like the show, tell a friend. If you want to be a guest on the show or you want more Para-Unity, please join us on our Facebook or Instagram pages. Or if you do want to help support our show, please stop by our website and buy us a coffee. But my name is Brandon.
And I'm Whitney, and you have been listening to the best place to bring our paranormal teams a little closer together, the Para-Unity Podcast. Good night, everyone.
Good night.